And we are live for Thursday night football week 8, everybody. How are we doing? We are 2 months into the NFL season, and we got a really fun, I know we say this sarcastically on some Thursday nights, like last week in the battle between Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. We had a great Thursday night last week, and it's going to be a truly fun game tonight between the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. This game is at LA. Rams are 3-point underdogs versus the Vikings in this game. Cooper Kupp is back. Puka Nacua is rumored to be back as well. We'll talk a lot about that, I'm sure, on this live stream. I think, which is we're in a fortunate spot for fantasy tonight. Pretty straightforward start-sit decisions tonight, in my opinion. I think there are 4 players that in basically all situations, you just need to start. There's a couple players that in some spots, maybe you're starting, and then everyone else is a must bench. I mean, there is a lot of must bench guys tonight, a lot of must bench guys. Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, is not playing tonight. Hopefully his return comes next week. Let's start with the Rams side of the ball in this game, the home team, the 3-point underdogs in this game. The Rams are really struggling this season. Let me pull it up here. But I've been saying for a little while now, about a month now, it feels like of all the teams in the NFL, the Rams have some of the most systemic risk. They only have 2 wins. And when I say systemic risk, I mean the whole team, the whole offense at any point feels like it could just start crumbling. The season could be a lost season. Tonight is definitely a pivotal moment for them in the course of this NFL season. Divisional game. They're in last in the division. Sorry, not a divisional game, in conference game. But they're the last in the division right now, 2-4, behind the 49ers, behind the Cardinals, behind the Seahawks. They have Cooper Kupp finally back for the first time since week 2. Cooper Kupp's only played 1 full game this season, guys. He balled out in that 1 game. He had 32 fantasy points. Was wide receiver 2 back in week 1. He had 14 catches, 110 yards, and a TD. If you remember, Puka Nacua got hurt in that game. Then the following week, Cooper Kupp projected as the number 1 wide receiver, and then he got hurt. And now he's back tonight. The first time on our TV screen since week 2 of the NFL season. It's been 6 weeks since we've seen Cooper Kupp, and he projects as a top 10 receiver. He absolutely needs to be started in all leagues in a good matchup versus the Vikings. So expect good things from Cooper Kupp. His over-under tonight, 6.5 receptions. I mean, that should give you some confidence. Addison or Jennings, that's definitely a close one. I think I probably would lean Jennings there. We'll get to some more start-sits, Thursday night start-sits, of course, coming up here momentarily in the live. I'm going to run through everything that I think about the Rams, every single player, and what I expect the team to do tonight. I'll talk about that for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then I'm going to go 3 to 5 minutes, everything I expect on the Vikings side of the ball, the must-starts, must-benches there, what I think is going to be the outcome of the game. Then we'll get to the free player props. I got 3 more free player props tonight. I got to admit, I was struggling a little bit. It took me, I probably did more hours of research into the props on this game than I usually need to do to find some that I liked. But I did find 3 different props that I liked. Let me pull this one up here too. Three different props that I'm riding tonight. We are 19-9 on the free player props. All right, so you got to start Cooper Kupp. I mean, definitely need to start him against the Vikings. The Vikings rank 3rd worst versus receivers in terms of fantasy points allowed this season. Kyren Williams also needs to be started. I don't think there's much discussion to have there. It is noteworthy, though, that Kyren Williams, he does not have the receiving role that I thought he was hopefully going to have this season. The rushing role has been great, though. Kyren Williams ranks number 2 in opportunity share this season. He has the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. I think he actually might be tied with Derrick Henry in that metric. No running back has played more snaps this season than Kyren Williams. No running back has a higher snap share this season than Kyren Williams. Guys, he had an 89% snap share last week. That is absolutely insane. But the receiving role really hasn't been there. He had no targets last week. Before the bye week in week 5, he only had 1 target. He's got 1 target in his last 2 games. He hasn't even ran 10 routes in his last 2 games. The receiving role really hasn't been there for Kyren, but the rushing role has. Back-to-back games, over 20 carries. He's had over a 70% rush share in all but 1 game this season. Blake Corum has not mixed in like we thought he might heading into the season. So you got to start Kyren Williams just purely off the workload. Tough matchup, though. The Vikings do rank 6th best in terms of fantasy points allowed. The Vikings did let up a lot of points to Jahmyr Gibbs last week, who was the running back 1. Kyren Williams is not Jahmyr Gibbs, though. Not the same explosiveness, not the same type of receiving back either. Jahmyr Gibbs had 4 catches, 44 yards in that game, and 116 rushing yards and 2 TDs. I do not expect anything close to that for Kyren Williams tonight. But still a must start. Everyone else on the Rams is basically a must bench. I mean, maybe in some spots, Colby Parkinson could be started. If you are really struggling at tight end, maybe you could talk yourself into Matthew Stafford against this Viking secondary as an underdog with Cooper Kupp and maybe Puka Nacua back. I could see that in some spots, but there's some other QBs like Bo Nix, for example, I think is actually a pretty safe high floor play for fantasy versus the Panthers this week. I'd probably go Bo Nix over Stafford. And that means basically in every league I'm benching Stafford. All right, so start Cooper Kupp, start Kyren Williams, bench basically everybody else unless you are really desperate at tight end. All right, on the Viking side of the ball, obviously Justin Jefferson needs to be started. We won't even spend too much time talking about him, but he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Not an amazing matchup for him on paper. Doesn't really matter. Aaron Jones. I actually like Aaron Jones tonight more than Kyren Williams. Encouraging first game back for Aaron Jones last week. He hurt his hip, I think it was, in week 5 before their bye week. Comes back last week. Wasn't really sure if we were going to get the full workload for Aaron Jones. If you guys recall, the Vikings traded for Cam Akers before the game last week. And some people speculated that was bad news for Aaron Jones' injury. Ended up not being bad news for Aaron Jones at all. And they actually came out and said that after the trade. But Aaron Jones last week, 93 rushing yards, touchdown, 3 catches, 23 yards. Played the second most snaps he's played this entire season. 43 snaps for a 72% snap share last week for Aaron Jones. I skipped Puka. I'll get back to Puka in a second. Did not mean to skip that. Route participation over 60% for Aaron Jones. He had second best snaps, second best routes of the season last week for Aaron Jones. Really strong usage. Now gets a pretty good matchup versus the Rams, who have been average at best versus running backs this season. I feel very bullish on Aaron Jones' chances to score a touchdown tonight and get at least 15 touches, have a good chance at 100-plus total yards. I like Aaron Jones a lot tonight. Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, the only 2 must-starts for the Vikings. Sam Darnold, I think you could talk yourself into him in some spots, but even him, I think I'd probably go Bo Nix over Sam Darnold if forced with that one. And then Jalen Naylor, Jordan Addison, they're kind of splitting this wide receiver 2 role to the extent that I don't really think you can trust it. We were on the Jordan Addison prop last week. I think I actually would go Addison over Naylor, unlike what we have projected here. Naylor, I think, has outproduced him multiple times this season. They haven't played together a bunch this season because Jordan Addison had missed some games. But yeah, I would go Addison over Naylor, but don't feel great about Addison just in general. I think I would go back to that start state we had earlier, Jawan Jennings over Jordan Addison. All right, going back to the Rams really quick, since I've seen a lot of Puka Nacua questions, and I understand the Puka Nacua questions. Guys, I'm here to tell you that you need to bench Puka Nacua tonight. You really do. I'm starting Puka Nacua over Marvin Harrison Jr. in my second flex slot. I'd rather take a limited Puka than a fully healthy Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Miami. Yeah, I just fully disagree. I fully disagree with this decision, Kevin. And this is your decision to make. Guys, you manage your teams. I'm here to give you the best information I possibly can to help you guys make the best decisions you possibly can. And I believe it is a really bad decision to start Puka Nacua tonight. And look no further, guys, than the prop lines. The prop lines for Puka Nacua tonight. They do not give you much confidence about Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua's prop line tonight, I'm looking at Prize Picks right now, 28.5 receiving yards. 28.5 receiving yards. They don't even expect him to go over 30 yards. I am still skeptical that Puka Nacua is even going to play in this game. And it seems likely, based on the reports, that it's reasonable for me to come out here and say he's going to play. Puka Nacua is going to play. And guys, this is a good matchup. This is not matchup related. This is not Puka Nacua really even related. Like Puka Nacua, fully healthy in this matchup, is an obvious start. That's why I understand there's going to be some questions wanting to start, some people out there wanting to start Puka Nacua. But you got to bench Puka Nacua. It's probably going to be a shootout. Definitely could see that in this matchup. Still don't think you can start Puka Nacua. Optimism that Puka Nacua plays. Nacua has already been listed as questionable for week 8. He's working his way back from a knee injury that he suffered in week 1. and he could be nearing a return for tonight despite his 21-day window opening just a few days ago. He has not practiced yet, guys. If Nacua did play, it's unlikely he plays his full complement of snaps. But if all goes well, seeming like he's going to be active. If he is active, he's a risky start. I think he's an extremely risky start. Guys, you have to have a safer option than Puka Nacua. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. That is a safer option this week, despite the tough matchup and despite what we've seen from Marv, than Puka Nacua. Again, his prop lines are at 28.5 receiving yards. His prop lines are below Tutu Atwell's prop lines. I don't think it's unreasonable to start Tutu Atwell over Puka Nacua. Maybe Puka has a slightly better chance at a touchdown, which makes sense. He's projecting a little bit better here in the Walter Picks app than Tutu Atwell. So maybe that's stretching it a little bit. But yeah, I have no interest in starting Puka Nacua in his first game back. I do not think we see a full workload for Puka Nacua tonight. At best, we're seeing half the workload, I think, for Puka. They were not expecting him back for another 2 to 3 weeks, guys. It is very surprising that he's going to be active for this game. Why are we sitting the Vikings defense? Yeah, so the Vikings defense has been good. Let's go to the defenses here. We got the Rams defense ranked defense 10 this week, and the Vikings defense ranks defense 8. So they're not terrible. They're both top 10, but I think generally you can find defenses better than just the top 8. The Ravens, the Steelers, the Jets, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos. I'd much rather start all of those defenses over both defenses tonight. And therefore, I do not think these defenses are must starts because one of those defenses is probably available in your league. Again, the Ravens, Steelers, Jets, Lions, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. This is our 8th straight Thursday going live, making sure we are all on top of the Thursday night game. I appreciate everybody in this live stream. We're about to get to the free player props, which are 19-9 this season on these live streams every Thursday, every Sunday morning. If you guys don't already follow the TikTok, hit the follow button on TikTok. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the subscribe button. And also, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button and then come to the YouTube Live. The link to the YouTube Live is right in the TikTok bio. The YouTube Live is a better viewing experience. I am sharing my screen on the YouTube Live to the defense ranks that we're talking through right now. And I can pull up game logs, matchup data that I can share screen to on the YouTube Live. I can't share it on the TikTok Live. We're benching Sam Darnold tonight because I'd rather play Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is available in your league most likely. Darnold's not the worst option. He does project as a top 10 QB in the Walter Picks app. He has been over 15 points in all but one game. I do think he'll bounce back from a couple back-to-back tough performances. The Rams, oddly, I don't think the Rams defense is good, but they oddly haven't been the best matchup for quarterbacks, partially because QBs just haven't ended up throwing very much versus the Rams this season. Only one quarterback has thrown more than 30 pass attempts versus the Rams this season, and that was Gardner Minshew last week. And actually, Aiden O'Connell threw 10 pass attempts in that game too. But this is part of the reason. Let me really quickly run through what I expect to happen in this game, which team I think is going to win, and then I'll get to the free player props, and then we'll grind through the start sits for the rest of the live. All right, so these are two very different teams. And obviously the Rams have been without two of their best players for most of the season, so some of this data is a little skewed. And I do think Cooper Kupp is a must start tonight and probably going to do very well versus this Viking secondary, probably going to get at least 5 catches and at least 50 yards in this game. Good chance at a touchdown as well in this matchup. The Viking secondary, again, they rank bottom 3 versus receivers this season. But these offenses are not comparable, guys. The defenses and the offenses aren't comparable. Minnesota has allowed their defense 1.5 points per drive. That's 5th best in the league. The Rams, they're at 2.4 points per drive. That's 28th in the league. So one of these defenses ranks top 5 in the league. One of these defense ranks bottom 4 in the league. We got a top 5 defense, the Minnesota Vikings, versus a bottom 5 defense, the Rams defense. So the Vikings clearly have the edge defensively. The Vikings defensive line has looked great at times this season. They did allow a lot of points to the Lions last week. The Lions offensive line beat the Vikings defensive line last week, but not the offensive line they're going up against tonight with the Rams. So clearly advantage to the Vikings defense. Again, they're 3-point favorites in this game. I think it probably should be more. The Vikings, I expect to win this game. The Vikings have led on 78% of their offensive plays. Have they had the lead? That's the highest rate in the league. No team has had the lead on a larger percentage of their plays than the Vikings. The Rams, you ask? Well, the Rams, they've only led on 12.8% of their drives. 30th in the league. So again, top 3 offense in terms of percentage of games with the lead, and bottom 3 offense in terms of percentage of games with the lead. The Rams have been behind the entire season, and the Vikings have been ahead basically the entire season. And this does go back to the defenses. So this is not just an offensive metric here. This is a both sides of the ball thing here, where the Rams defense just has not been able to stop running backs or the rushing attack this season. They've been okay in terms of fantasy points allowed versus quarterbacks, but they really haven't been great in the secondary either. They're really just not a scary part of this Rams defense. They have had a couple touchdowns this season. They actually did well last week, the Rams defense, in a good matchup. But the Vikings are clearly the better team here. I think they should be favored by more than 3. I'm taking the Vikings tonight. All right, let's go to the free player props. 3 free player props for you tonight. One a little bit more risky than the other 2. We're 19-9 on the free player props this season. Why Puka a bench? Because he's not going to play a lot, even if he's active. His prop line is 28.5 receiving yards tonight, guys. All right, the 3 free player props are, I'm taking the Kyren Williams under 87.5 total yards. The Vikings run defense has been very good this season. They let up a bit last week, 116 rushing yards, 44 receiving yards to Jahmyr Gibbs last week, another 39 receiving yards, 31 rushing yards to David Montgomery. But this is not the Lions they're playing tonight, guys. The Lions have the best offensive line in the NFL. That is not what we're seeing tonight from the Rams. You look at some of their previous matchups too, and it's a pretty encouraging picture. Josh Jacobs didn't beat this line. Breece Hall didn't even hit 50 total yards versus the Vikings. Cam Akers didn't come close. Devin Singletary didn't come close back in week 1. The only 2 running backs to do this have been Jordan Mason and Jahmyr Gibbs, running behind 2 of the best offensive lines in the NFL. The Rams do not have a top 10 offensive line. Kyren Williams, the usage has been there for Kyren Williams. The usage has been strong. The efficiency has not been that strong for Kyren Williams, though. He's actually been one of the least efficient running backs in the league, and that's partly because the offensive line has not created much running room for him. 3.8 yards per carry for Kyren Williams this season. His true yards per carry is 3.7. That ranks outside the top 50 running backs in the NFL. And the Vikings have been not a good defense to go up against to try to be an efficient running back. Unless you're Jahmyr Gibbs. Breece Hall, he had 2.6 yards per carry versus the Vikings. So yeah, I like this Kyren under. Total yards, 87.5. The other reason I like this Kyren under is I mentioned it when we were talking about Kyren. He's still a must-start for fantasy, by the way. He only has 1 target in his last 2 games. I mean, the receiving role has just vanished for Kyren Williams. It's not like anyone else has taken the receiving role from him. He's still out there every snap. But they're just keeping, because of the offensive line issues for the Rams on the passing plays, Kyren Williams is not running routes. He's blocking. They need Kyren Williams to block on these passing plays. And so he's getting almost no receiving work as a result. Again, 1 target in the last 2 games. That also bodes really well for his total under and his receiving under, especially if the Rams end up trailing in this game. So yeah, I like the Kyren unders tonight. I'm taking the under total yards, 87.5. I think you should include the receiving yards. Again, he only has 1 target in the last 2 games. So I think either go under receiving yards or under total yards. I like that more than the under rushing, because the volume has been there rushing wise for Kyren Williams. He ranks 2nd in the NFL in rush attempts and 1st in rush share. 77% of carries for the Rams have gone to Kyren Williams. That's 1st in the NFL. All right, and then we're taking this one, the Ty Chandler under half a reception. This is the riskier one, plus 165, plus 170 in some spots for this under. I'm honestly surprised we're getting this good of odds on this, though. Last week, Ty Chandler only ran 6 routes. He ran 6 routes last week, no targets. Again, this is under half a reception. You need some targets to get a reception. And he actually has caught 100% of his targets this season. I don't think that's going to be true over the course of the season. He absolutely could get a target in this game and not get a catch. But the real reason I like this one a lot at these odds, again, plus 170 odds on this Ty Chandler under half a reception. I won't be surprised if Cam Akers starts to ease in a little bit more to this offense. To me, the Cam Akers trade was a worse signal for Ty Chandler than it was for Aaron Jones. It wouldn't be shocking for Cam Akers, who returned punts and kicks last week, to step into this backup role over Ty Chandler, who, again, only ran 6 routes and had 0 targets last week. So even if Cam Akers doesn't eat into his role, which I think he might, he could easily go under this line. And if Cam Akers does get into this role, he basically has no chance at getting a catch. And I'm in on Aaron Jones tonight, too. That's the third free player prop. Aaron Jones over 71.5 rushing yards. Every single running back has dominated the Rams. Guys, the Rams are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. This is way past the Aaron Darnold days of the Rams. In week 1, David Montgomery, 91 rushing yards. In week 2, James Conner, 122 rushing yards. In week 3, Jordan Mason, 77 rushing yards. In week 4, DeAndre Swift, 93 rushing yards. Week 5, Josh Jacobs. Week 6, bye. Week 7, Madison. Every single game the Rams have played, we have seen a running back go over 71.5 rushing yards. Alexander Madison did it last week, guys. Josh Jacobs did it. Swift did it. Jordan Mason did it. James Conner did it. Jahmyr Gibbs did it. And sure, these are some good running backs, but Aaron Jones is a good running back too. Aaron Jones did just do this versus one of the best rush defenses in the NFL. Last week versus the Lions had 93 rushing yards, an extremely impressive 93 rushing yards. At 6.6 yards per carry versus the Lions. I mean, that might have been, was that the most efficient game we've seen versus the Lions defense? I mean, it really might have been. Let's check this out. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to YouTube Live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button. I spent several hours grinding through the research for these three props for all of you guys tonight. And I do believe, yeah, I was up there. Kenneth, he was at 6.7. I mean, Sharp was on low volume. Second most efficient rushing day we've seen versus the Lions for Aaron Jones. I think both these guys actually kind of low volume. The highest volume, best efficient game. When Kyren Williams, for example, played the Lions back in week 1, 2.8 yards per carry. Guys, Kyren Williams has not been efficient on the ground this season. The volume has been there. He ranks number 2 in carries. But he ranks outside the top 50 in yards per carry. So we're taking the Kyren Williams total yards under, Aaron Jones rushing over, and Ty Chandler under half a reception. That's the 3 plays for me tonight. I feel pretty good about all of those. All right, time to get to the start-sit decisions on Thursday night. Again, I think it's a pretty straightforward start-sit night. I really do. I think you've got to start Cooper Kupp. In basically all situations, there's not, I don't think, going to be a spot tonight someone asked about where I say bench Cooper Kupp, unless your team is absolutely insanely stacked. Justin Jefferson, same thing. I mean, there actually will not be, he's wide receiver 1 in my mind. You just can't start. You can't bench him. Kyren Williams and Aaron Jones, they really can't be benched either. And again, I like Aaron Jones more than Kyren Williams. I'm on the Aaron Jones over, the Kyren Williams under. But guys, this Kyren Williams under could still easily hit and him have a good fantasy day. He could score 2 touchdowns, have 60 yards, and we cash the prop, and he's a good fantasy start. Easily in the cards with an 87.5 total yards line. Aaron Jones, I think, is a must start. Puka Nacua, I really believe, is a must bench. We got him projected as wide receiver 55 in the Walter Picks app right now. If you have not checked out the Walter Picks app yet, you got to download the app. I do not know what you're waiting for. The link is in the TikTok bio. The link is in the YouTube description. You can get all of the fantasy projections custom to your league settings in the app for free. You can research all of the advanced stats in the Walter Picks app for free. I mean, you are actively trying not to win your fantasy league if you don't have the Walter Picks app. And I appreciate you testing out some of the free trials for the subscriptions in the app too. Use code SAM when you sign up. You'll get a 7-day free trial on all the premium subscriptions in the app. Well worth the prices. Why start Kyren? His total yards line is at 90, and he ranks 2nd in rushing attempts. And he's got about as good of a chance at a touchdown as any single player on any given week. He's number 1 in touchdowns. He's right next to Derrick Henry in terms of touchdowns. I think they're tied in terms of touchdowns. Maybe Henry has one more receiving one than him or something. But he's tied for first, I think, in rushing TDs. Let me pull this up, actually. What's Henry's rushing touchdowns at? I think they're tied. No, he has more rushing touchdowns than Derrick Henry per game. A per game number. It's a per game number. So maybe they actually total-wise is similar. But Kyren Williams is averaging the most rushing touchdowns per game, which isn't that surprising when you consider he ranks 2nd in rushing attempts. I'm benching Kyren for Bijan, Dobbins, and Mason. Yeah, so I agree with most of those. I don't know if I would start Dobbins over Kyren. I mean, I get it. I do like this matchup for Dobbins. I mean, we were all over the Javonte Williams being a start last Thursday night. We cashed the free player prop last Thursday night too, by the way. We got 3 free player props for you tonight. Close call, honestly, between Dobbins and Kyren. Again, I'm on the unders for Kyren. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I probably personally would start Kyron over Dobbins. I think pretty obviously Kyron's going to project better. Kupp or Adams for flex. Yeah, so I'm not benching Kupp. You got to start Kupp. Why bench the Vikings defense? Well, because Cooper Kupp's back tonight, and so is Puka Nacua potentially. Bench Sam Darnold. What do you mean? Yeah, so he's not. Maybe in the must bench category was a little bit aggressive. He maybe should be in the maybe worth it category. Who makes his QB8 in the Walter Picks app? He probably should be in the maybe worth it category. Sam Darnold. The reason that I put him in the must bench category is because I think a start sit decision between him and Bo Nix is actually pretty close. And Bo Nix is available in every league. Bo Nix gets the Panthers this week. Bo Nix has been running a lot. Bo Nix has been over 14 points in 3 straight games. He's been over 21 points in 2 of those 3 games. Now he gets his best matchup of his career, really. Of the Panthers defense that just got destroyed by Commanders offense without Jayden Daniels. And then Sam Darnold, he gets the Rams, and the Rams defense isn't that good. They did allow over 25 points to Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy. Only 17 to Jordan Love, only 11 to Caleb Williams, only 12 to Jared Goff. Last week, I mean, the Raiders quarterbacks did nothing, but that's the Raiders. Sam Darnold has been kind of consistent, over 15 points in all but 1 game, so there's a decent floor there for Darnold. He hasn't played great in his last few games, but he was at 9.6 yards per attempt, 82% completion percentage last week. He's not a must bench. He's a maybe worth it. He's a maybe worth it, not a must bench. I think Bo Nix has a safer floor than him, though, and I think that the Vikings will be able to run very effectively in this game. And that's part of the reason the Rams ranked 8th best versus quarterbacks this season in fantasy, in terms of fantasy points allowed. It's because a lot of offenses have just been able to run all game against the Rams. How crazy is Kupp going tonight? Probably pretty crazy, because I think the Vikings offense has success. The Rams playing from behind. I don't think Puka Nacua is going to have a full role. We got it. This starts it from the YouTube live. Puka Nacua or Deontay Johnson. I think it's got to be Deontay Johnson, who's isn't going to practice this whole season, but is probably not going to miss games. Pat Surtain is back. Deontay coming off a 3-point game, his worst game of the season. He had 1 catch last week. 70% snap share. Man, I mean, this one's pretty rough, but yeah, it's Deontay for me over Puka, who also might not play really tonight much. What's up, Sam? Happy Thursday. Pick 2. Happy Thursday to you, Kyle. Happy Thursday to everybody in this live stream right now. We got a fun one on our TV screens in a little over an hour and a half. All right, we got Spears, D-Hop, Addison, Hubbard, Irving, Mooney, Coleman. Thanks. All right, so you snuck Addison in here, making this technically a Thursday night start sit. I don't know if Spears is going to play. Mooney's definitely got to be started here. This one's definitely Mooney. Between all these other guys, I don't think I'd start Addison. I would bench Addison tonight, Kylo. Let's see what the reports end up being on both Spears and D-Hop, because I think both those guys are still a little bit up in the air. I'm definitely starting Darnell Mooney, though, over Addison. All right, Addison, Worthy, or Terry, half PPR. Oh, man, with Mariota likely starting. This one's actually maybe close. Let's see. I think I still would go Terry. I think I'd probably rank Terry, Worthy, then Addison. Yeah. It's Terry, then Worthy, then Addison. I'm playing Dobbs over Addison. Kupp, London. Who is that? Kupp, London, and Kupp versus London. I think is London. I think I'd play London over Kupp. Let me list off the receivers I'm playing over Cooper Kupp. It's a very short list. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb. End of list. That's it. That's the list. Unless somehow you have 3 of those guys on your team, then you can bench Cooper Kupp. And by the way, Cooper Kupp's right in that tier with Lamb and AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill. I mean, Drake London, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, this is basically all tier 1. It's a big group of tier 1, the top 7 receivers this week. Jay Jettas tonight, Cooper Kupp tonight, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb. And by the way, of all of those guys, arguably Cooper Kupp has the best matchup of all those defenses of those guys that are I just listed that they're playing against. The Vikings have allowed the most fantasy points per game to receivers this season. Should I trade Achane and Hawkinson for Monty and T. Higgins? Or Monty and Reed for playoffs? It depends what your tight end situation is. If you have a good tight end already, I don't hate trading away Hawkinson. I don't really love trading away Achane with Tua coming back. I don't think he's got a good playoff schedule. It's a pretty fair trade. But the Vikings do have a really good playoff schedule. I talked about that today. Did a bunch of research this week on the playoff schedules. Yeah, they get the Bills. I think I'd probably go with the Montgomery side of that. Puka or McLaurin? It's McLaurin. Darnold or Bo Nix? Yeah, so for me, that ultimately is a floor ceiling decision, and I honestly think it's Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is the safer option at least. Let's see what the Walter Picks app says here. Yeah, agrees. I mean, the ceiling is much higher. Yeah, the ceiling is way higher for Darnold. Is the floor really that low for Darnold though? I mean, he has been over 17 points in all 4 of his last 5 games. The matchup is definitely better for Bo Nix. I think I changed my gut answer here. I think I would go Darnold over Bo Nix looking into this a bit further. The ceiling is absolutely higher for Darnold tonight than it is for Bo Nix versus the Panthers. I do think Bo Nix has a pretty good shot at rushing touchdown, though. Pretty good option. Darnold's not a must bench, guys. He's a maybe worth it. Here's the quarterbacks I'm playing over Sam Darnold. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, obviously all 3 of those guys. Jordan Love, easily or against the Jags. Brock Purdy versus Sam Darnold, I think is pretty close, honestly. I think I'd lean Brock Purdy versus the Cowboys, even with the injuries that team is dealing with. Joe Burrow, I definitely would play over Sam Darnold. I'm playing Dak over Darnold too. And then Caleb Williams, Kirk Cousins, CJ Stroud, and Bo Nix, I think are all really, really close to Sam Darnold. I wouldn't knock you for starting any of those quarterbacks over Sam Darnold. Caleb Williams, Kirk, Stroud. Guys, Kirk Cousins threw for 500 yards last time he played the Bucs. That's who he gets this week. And then Bo Nix gets the Panthers, who rank 3rd worst versus quarterbacks. Bo Nix has a pretty good floor too. Darnold has a high ceiling, but I think a low floor if the Vikings are able to establish the run in this game. What's up, Sam? Would you trade away Kupp and Achane for Olave and JT? Wow, this is a big time trade. And I don't know how I feel about trading away Kupp. There's obviously been the trade rumors circulating. I don't really buy those that much. I do think Chris Olave is a good guy to be trading for right now. Has a good fantasy football playoff schedule. No Rashid Shaheed now. It sounds like Derek Carr is going to come back. JT will come back at some point, hopefully, but he gets kind of a tough playoff schedule. Still has his bye. He's got the Lions and the Jets in here too. I don't really love trading away Achane too. I think I'd hold on to the Cooper Kupp Achane side of this. We're benching Puka because he's probably barely going to play. Again, the Puka Nacua prop line tonight is at 28.5 receiving yards. Let me just refresh the Twitter feed here, make sure we haven't missed any news regarding Puka. Olave got a full practice in today. That's encouraging. Does seem like Puka Nacua is going to play. It does not seem like Puka Nacua is going to play his full role. He is a must bench for fantasy. Guys, you have other good players on your team for situations like this. You don't need to start Puka Nacua in his first game back. It's a very risky move to start Puka in his first game back when we do not think he's going to play his full role, when his prop line is at 28.5 receiving yards. Guys, if you're just joining the YouTube live, smash the like button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. I do think the Vikings should be favored by more in this game. The Vikings are only favored by 3 points. The Vikings defense has allowed 1.5 points per drive this season. That is 5th best in the NFL. The Rams defense, that's allowed almost 2.5 points per drive, almost a full point per drive more, which ranks bottom 5 in the league. So we got a top 5 defense versus a bottom 5 defense in this game tonight. Ignore the offenses for a second, which is getting all the attention. These are not the same defenses in this game. The Vikings defense has some strengths on the defensive line. The Rams offensive line also has struggled at times this season. These two teams have been through an entirely different season up to this point. The Vikings, they've led on more than 3/4 of their snaps this season. They've taken that snap with a lead in the game. That's the highest rate in the league. 78% of their snaps have been taken. Offensive plays have been taken with a lead. The Rams have been trailing basically the entire season, right from the get-go. Almost 10%. Only almost 10% of their snaps have they been playing with the lead. I expect both these trends to continue tonight. Vikings beating the Rams on the road tonight. They're only 3-point favorites. I like that side of it. I got 3 free player props for us tonight. We are 19-9 on the free player props this season. Number 1, Kyren Williams, under total yards, 87.5 rushing and receiving. Kyren Williams gets the Vikings tonight. Only 2 running backs that beat this line versus the Vikings. It was Jordan Mason and Jahmyr Gibbs, both of who play behind top 10 offensive lines in the NFL. Well, guess who doesn't play behind a top 10 offensive line in the NFL? That would be Kyren Williams, who also only has one target in his last 2 games, who also ranks outside the top 50 in yards per carry. He does have the second most carries in the NFL. He has played the most snaps in the NFL, but the efficiency hasn't been there and the matchup is not there. I like the Kyren Williams total yards under tonight. I also like the other side of this game. I like Aaron Jones rushing yards. Every single game this season that the Rams have played, a running back has beat the line that they set for Aaron Jones tonight at 71.5 rushing yards. Every single game, we've seen a running back beat this. Week 1, it was Jahmyr Gibbs. Week 2, it was James Conner. Week 3, it was Jordan Mason. Week 4 is DeAndre Swift. Week 5, it was Josh Jacobs. And last week, after the Rams come out of the bye, Alexander Madison runs for 92 yards. Guys, Alexander Madison was at 4 yards a carry last week. See, I like the Aaron Jones rushing line. Aaron Jones just beat this line too versus the Lions, who have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. One of the most efficient games we've seen versus the Lions this whole season last week for Aaron Jones coming off the bye week. What's up, Sam? Trade Hill for Amari and Jacobs. If you really need a running back, I'm cool with this. But you're giving up the best player in the trade, Sebastian. I don't love that, just generally. Start McMillan or Addison. Yeah, so I'm benching Addison tonight. Let me run through it. The one guy that I think I miscoded on the TikTok live, because I got on the TikTok live behind me for watching live on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. It's a way better viewing experience. I can pull up comments on screen. I'm sharing my screen. Link is right in the TikTok bio if you're watching live on TikTok. But on the TikTok live, I have the Thursday Night Football must starts. No discussion needed. Kyren Williams, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Cooper Kupp. I think all those are straightforward. In basically all situations, you're starting all 4 of those guys. The maybe worth it category, I have Jordan Addison and Colby Parkinson. I honestly think those guys are both pretty close to must benches, though. And the guy that probably should be in the maybe worth it category that I didn't put in there is Sam Darnold. He does project as a top 10 QB this week. The Rams have weirdly ranked number 8 best versus quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points allowed this season, but largely because they've been so bad versus the run. Everyone's been able to run against them. And I do think that's going to potentially happen tonight. That's why I like the Aaron Jones rushing over. But Darnold does have a pretty good ceiling still in this game. Darnold still arguably has a decent floor, too. He's been at least 15 points in all but one game this season. He's projected for over 250 passing yards tonight. No Hawkinson tonight for the Vikings. Hopefully he'll be back next week. But yeah, I'm starting McMillan, I think, over Addison. Yeah, I would do McMillan over Addison. McMillan gets a good matchup this week. Potential shootout versus the Falcons. That game was a shootout last time they played. Puka Nacua versus Sutton. Yeah, it's Sutton. Bench Puka Nacua. If you have a guy that's about to be in a full role on his team, and then you have Puka Nacua, who's not going to be in a full role tonight, he might not even be at 25% of his role. I mean, again, his prop line's at 28.5. So I don't have much confidence in Puka Nacua tonight. I would rather bench Puka Nacua. And yeah, I'll play McMillan over Addison. I would easily play Waddle over Addison. I would easily play Waddle over Puka Nacua. That is not close. I would easily play McMillan over Puka Nacua. I would do that. I really don't think you can start Puka in his first game back, guys. Let's see what the role looks like for Puka Nacua before shoving him into our starting lineup and taking a donut. We have seen in the past in the NFL, this happens all the time. When guys are ready and healthy enough to play, but to not really play, sometimes it can be good to put them out there as a decoy so that the NFL defense that they're going against has to prepare and try to cover them. When in reality, you have no plan on pushing too much work towards this player who is still working his way back from injury. That easily could be the case for Puka Nacua tonight, guys. It still wouldn't be that surprising to me if Puka Nacua is just straight up inactive still. It could be one of those games the Rams are playing, at the last minute trying to get the Vikings to game plan against Puka, and then they're like, haha, got you. He's actually still not playing like we all expected. We're benching the Vikings defense tonight because there's better defenses available likely on your waiver wire. That's honestly kind of what it came down to for Sam Darnold for me too. Like I think Bo Nix is arguably a better start this week than Sam Darnold, at least from a floor perspective. But yeah, I'd much rather play the Ravens defense, the Steelers defense, the Jets defense, the Lions defense, the Chiefs defense, the Chargers defense, and the Broncos defense than both defenses tonight. That's why both defenses are a must bench, because in most leagues, you're going to find one of those defenses out there, or you probably already did. Then it's the Vikings, though. If you can't find one of those 7, then I would play the Vikings. So maybe they should be in the maybe worth it category also with Sam Darnold. But I'm playing Dak over Darnold. Yep, I'm playing Dak over Darnold. Who do I sit? Reed, Pickens, T. Higgins, or Diggs? Not a Thursday night question here. Scojo1128. Hit that subscribe button, though, on the YouTube Live. We're live every single Sunday morning for like the 4 hours leading up to the kickoffs, and I get to all the start sits like this. Right now, if I had to choose, I'd probably lean T. Higgins and Diggs. Terry or Cup? It's Cup. Matt, good to see you back in the YouTube Live. Matt, you got to start Cup tonight, man. Got to start Cup. Cup and Puka Nacua are not in similar situations tonight. Cooper Kupp is actually fully healthy and likely to see a full workload. Again, his prop line's at 6.5 receptions, 70 yards. Puka Nacua is not fully healthy, not likely to see a full workload, though it seems likely at this point he's going to be active. But best guys to trade for right now, Paulo, go to the Walter Picks TikTok channel, at Walter Picks on TikTok, or go to Walter Picks on Instagram. I just posted a video today outlining all the quarterbacks, all of the running backs that I'm trading for. I also will be talking about the receivers and tight ends. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get that video out. It also, you can go on this YouTube channel, go back to the last live stream I did. I talked basically entirely last live stream about guys to go trade for. Tonight, I'm going to be really focused in on Thursday night start sit decisions. T. Higgins versus Cooper Kupp. Yeah, this one's pretty tough. I still think this is probably Cooper Kupp, though. It's probably Cooper Kupp over T. Higgins. You know, this is a good decision to have to be in. Yeah, it's actually pretty close, but yeah, it's Kupp. It's Kupp over Higgins. A better matchup here for Cooper Kupp. Guys, the Vikings have been crushed by receivers this season. I mean, their defensive line has been good. And again, that's part of the reason I think the Vikings win this game is the defense for the Vikings at least has a strength. The Rams defense doesn't really have a strength. We've seen some very big receiver games versus the Vikings. Steph Diggs had 20 points. Jaden Reed had 27. Dontavian Wicks had 25. Garrett Wilson had 29. Amon-Ra St. Brown last week had 25. Amon-Ra St. Brown was the wide receiver 1 last week with 25 points. Cooper Kupp could have that type of ceiling. Do I start Puka or Bucky? It's Bucky. I got offered JT and Kupp for Walker and T. JT and Kupp for Walker and T. Not a terrible trade there, especially if you don't need JT right now. I mean, the big difference is Kenneth is playing and JT's not right now. I think I saw, did Jonathan Taylor get a limited practice in today, maybe? Practicing again Thursday. Yeah, so that's, I mean, a good sign for him to at least be back in the next couple of weeks. It's a pretty fair trade, though. Start Judy or Addison. All right, Austin, here we go. These are the questions that are fun on Thursday night. Judy is probably a better start than Addison. Judy does have a good matchup versus the Ravens secondary, which ranks dead last versus receivers this season. Yeah, it's Judy over Addison. Addison's just a straight up bench tonight. He's not even a maybe. He's just a bench. Man, Judy's got 1 catch in 3 straight games. Judy did have a season high snap percentage, season high route participation in the first game without Amari, though. Did at least see 6 targets. And I do think Judy benefits from Deshaun being out. We didn't really see it last week once Deshaun went out, but we probably see it this week against the Ravens, who, again, ranked dead last versus receivers this season, mostly because of this game versus the Bengals. I'm starting Nacua. Yeah, why? I don't think you should. That's obviously up to you. One of the fun parts about fantasy football is you make your own decisions. I'm not here trying to make decisions for you. I'm here to tell you what I would do and to try to give you all the best information I can so you can make your own best decisions. And the information I have about Puka Nacua is that his prop line is at 28.5 receiving yards. So if you really think Puka Nacua is going to do something, I would just take that. I would just go take that. And I'm not confident in taking the over on that. I think there's a good chance Puka Nacua is still inactive. I think there's a good chance that if he is active, he's playing less than half the snaps. I think there's a good chance if Puka Nacua is active and he plays more than half the snaps, he's a decoy on most of those snaps. I would be pretty surprised to see Puka Nacua get more than 5 catches tonight. I mean, what's the real ceiling, guys, for Puka in this game? The real ceiling is that suddenly he is fully 100% out of nowhere. He's ready to go against a good matchup. You know, maybe I could see you talking yourself into that ceiling. I just really don't think that's the case. The matchup's obviously good. I just don't think he's ready to go at 100% steam out of the gates here. So I just skipped that question on the YouTube live. I'll get back to that. I still think HN can do good in the fantasy playoffs. Yeah, I have HN, Monty, and Mixon. Which one would you trade with either Mooney or McMillan for Henry and an injured CMC? Yeah, I would be much more excited to trade away McMillan than Darnell Mooney. All right, let me get back to this one here. Kyler or Darnold? I think I go Darnold over Kyler. Again, if you're watching that on TikTok, I think Darnold's more of a maybe worth it than a must bench. Adrian, sorry for missing this one. Addison, Douglas, Ladd, or Pearsall at the flex. Thursday question. Yeah, so it's Ladd or Pearsall here. I mean, I kind of want to be in on Douglas, but it's so tough after last week. I think this one's probably Ladd. Yeah, this one's Ladd. Go Ladd over Addison for sure. I think Ladd over all of these guys makes sense. Ladd McConkey did decent last week, gets a decent matchup versus the Saints this week. He is questionable, dealing with a new injury, I think, Ladd. 2 drops, hip limited again Friday. That was Friday though. Yeah, I think he's fine. I think I would go Ladd. Do I bench Swift or Hunt? Yeah, I'd probably bench Swift instead of Hunt. Hunt gets a really good matchup this week, but you got to play Cooper Kupp over both those guys. Should I start Tua or A-Rich? Yeah, you really just can't be starting Anthony Richardson right now in fantasy. Caleb or Darnold? Yeah, so Brady. This one's super close, man. And honestly, I kind of think it's Caleb Williams. We got Darnold one spot ahead of him, but I think they project extremely close. Yeah, and look at this projection. I mean, this is as close as it could possibly get. I think the matchup's a bit better for Caleb. I think this game is still a little bit more likely to be a pass-heavy game for the Bears than it is for the Vikings tonight. That the Rams are only 3-point underdogs in this game. I think that the Rams should be bigger underdogs in this game because a big part of the reason quarterbacks have done bad versus the Rams in fantasy. Again, they rank pretty well versus quarterbacks this season. Only 2 good games we've seen against the Rams. It came from Kyler and Purdy. Both were top 5 QBs in those weeks, both over 25 points. I do think Darnold has that in him tonight. But the problem is the running backs have been crushing the Rams. And so a lot of teams just haven't had to throw that much. We haven't seen very much pass volume versus the Rams. Last week was actually the most pass attempts we've seen versus the Rams this season. And that was because they played the Raiders. And everyone's going to be leading against the Raiders. But you look at the pass attempts, and there's only one quarterback over 30 pass attempts this whole season versus the Rams. And that game last week, it was Gardner Minshew. We didn't even play the whole game. Lots of people wanting Nico. What can I get for him? Yeah, so if you are in a good spot to make the fantasy playoffs, you probably should hold on to Nico. Unless you can go get one of those top guys. CeeDee Lamb maybe you could get potentially if you gave something with Nico. Dobbs or D-Hop or McLaurin. Not a Thursday night question here. I probably wouldn't start D-Hop in a situation like this. Hey, Sam, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to you as well. Timothy in the YouTube live. Guys, we're live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. I am much more likely to see your comment on the TikTok live with how TikTok works if you follow. It's almost impossible to see the comments if you don't follow. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the subscribe button. Appreciate everyone in this live stream. Really do appreciate everyone here. I look forward to these lives all week. We're live every Thursday night, every Sunday morning, every Tuesday night as well. Cream Hunt for Olave and Stevenson non-PPR. God, Timothy, I mean, this is close. It depends what your running back situation is. Non-PPR league, Hunt is definitely the most valuable player in this league. I do like Olave the rest of the season, especially with Rashid Shaheed out. So why are we benching Puka Nacua tonight? Is Puka Nacua going to be in a snap count? Yes. Puka Nacua is either going to be one of these things. I think for Puka Nacua tonight, it's going to be one of these three things. Number one, he's just going to be inactive. And this is all just kind of a smokescreen to try to get the Vikings to prep against Puka Nacua. I think that's the least likely of the 3 outcomes, but I still think there's a decent chance Puka Nacua is just straight up inactive still. Number 2, Puka Nacua is just on a very, very strict snap count. He plays under 50% of the snaps. Not the full role for Puka in terms of snaps. That's number 2. And then number 3, he plays more than 50% of the snaps, but he's not really getting the ball like he normally does on a lot of those snaps, and he's used more as a decoy on some of those. Those are the 3 outcomes. None of those are good for fantasy, guys. I really think Puka Nacua is a must bench. Goff or Darnold? Yeah, so I think it's Darnold over Goff. So here's the quarterbacks I'm playing definitely over Sam Darnold, who I think is a maybe worth it quarterback this week, not a must bench like I initially had on the TikTok live. I think Lamar, Hurts, Allen, we don't need to discuss those. Those are very obvious. Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott. I'm definitely starting all of those guys over Sam Darnold as well. Then we get into the really tough decisions. I think I would go Caleb Williams over Darnold. I think I would go Kirk Cousins over Darnold. I don't know if I'd go Stroud over Darnold. I might go Darnold there with how Stroud looked last week. Stroud's in a good spot this week, but they also could end up running a lot in that game. But yeah, I'm going to go Darnold over Goff. I think I did come around to Darnold over Bo Nix, but I think that one's actually pretty close. Good matchup for Bo Nix this week. Darnold versus Mahomes. That you don't feel good doing that one, but with how Mahomes has played this season, I think that one's fine. I'd play Darnold over Kyler. I'd play Darnold over Trevor Lawrence, over A-Rich, over Baker, over Tua, and yeah, over Goff. Now, not a good matchup for Goff this week. We're sitting Vikings defense because there's 7 defenses I'd rather play than the Vikings. And if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. I'm sharing a screen to those 7 defenses on the YouTube live right now. Link is right in the TikTok bio. I'd rather play the Ravens defense. I'd rather play the Steelers defense, the Jets defense, the Lions defense, the Chiefs defense, the Chargers defense, and the Broncos defense. Then it's the Vikings. The reason I lean towards benching Darnold, the Rams rank 8th best in terms of points allowed to quarterbacks this season. There's been 2 good QB games versus the Rams, partially because the teams have been able to run very effectively, which is part of the reason I like the Aaron Jones rushing over tonight. Guys, we are 19-9 on these free player props this season. Neighbors or Cup? Yeah, it's Cup. It's Cup over Neighbors, for sure. There's very, very few receivers I'm starting over Cup. Like, there's basically not a league where I'm going to recommend to bench him. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, end of list. End of list. Then it's Cup. Shortly after that, you get to Amon-Ra. I think Amon-Ra is probably in a similar tier, especially with Waymo Jamo suspended for 2 games. Malik Neighbors is not too far behind, but yeah, I would go. I'm playing Waddle over Addison. Yeah, I know Waddle's questionable. I want nothing to do with Addison. Send Jamo for Devontae Smith. Definitely do that. Sam Darnold's not a must bench. He is a maybe worth it. I incorrectly put him into the must bench category. He's in the maybe worth it category. The Rams have done decent against quarterbacks this season because they've been so bad versus the running backs. At least in terms of fantasy, they've done good versus quarterbacks. We've only seen 2 quarterbacks go over 20 points. I think the Vikings run offense will have success tonight. That's why I like the Aaron Jones over rushing. Sam Darnold has been over 15 points in 4 of his 5 games. Sam Darnold's air yards per attempt, 5th highest in the NFL. His yards per attempt, 5th highest in the NFL. He has been good at times this season. Really not. We haven't seen great games from him in the last couple of games. He actually was really efficient last week. He completed 82% of his passes, 9.6 yards per attempt in that loss versus the Lions. He did get sacked 4 times and throw an interception. He does have an interception in all but 1 game this season. But yeah, the reason he's not a must start, I would start Dak over him. I'd start Burrow over him. Purdy, Jordan Love, I'd start over him. I think I'd start Caleb Williams and Kirk Cousins over him too. And I think him versus Bo Nix is super close. And Bo Nix is available in all leagues. I think I would lean Darnold for the ceiling, but I would argue that Bo Nix is a better floor than Sam Darnold tonight. Do I start Aaron Jones over Bijan or K9? Maybe over K9. Man, we got Aaron Jones ahead of both of those guys in the Walter Picks app tonight. Aaron Jones predicted 18.8 in this game tonight versus the Rams. And again, the Rams, I'm pretty shocked, honestly, by this rushing line for Jones tonight at 71.5 rushing yards. Every single game this season, the Rams have allowed this. Every single game to 1 running back. There hasn't been a game where a running back didn't go over at least 70 yards versus the Rams. And Kenneth Walker and Bijan, they're also in good matchups this week, man. I mean, none of these guys you want to bench. Really tough starts here. I think you kind of have to find a way to start all 3 of these guys, start one of these guys in your flex. But yeah, if I really had to choose, I guess it's Bijan. Jones or Achane? Yeah, it's Jones. Cup, Jacobs, or Hunt? I would go Cup, then Jacobs, then Hunt. I think I would rank them in that order. Would you rather trade away Achane, Mixon, or Monty for the rest of season? Probably Achane. It's Achane or Monty, definitely not Mixon. Do you think any of them are worth giving up for potential CMC might have if he comes back? Yeah, if I could give up Monty, get CMC, or give up Achane, get CMC, I would do that, 100%. Talked about it today in the video I posted, but of all players that have a chance to win leagues, I mean, Christian McCaffrey's right up near the top of that list. He really is. For the players, for the teams that are able to make it to the fantasy playoffs with Christian McCaffrey on the team, McCaffrey is one of the best fantasy football playoff schedules in the NFL this season. And I do think he's going to come back. Let me actually update. I think I I'm going to do this quick. Update the Walter Picks app here on the YouTube Live, and we'll be able to see some new functionality in that matchup screen, which I'm excited to share. Why bench Vikings defense? I would rather play 7 other defenses over the Vikings defense. I will list them to you here. There's just a bunch of defenses I think are better spots than the Vikings tonight on a short week. With Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua coming back to a little bit scary there. I'd definitely play Adams over Puka Nacua. Kyren will do bad. I actually agree with you. I still think he's a must start because Kyren Williams leads all running backs in snaps. He's second in carries, so you kind of can't bench him in fantasy leagues. But I actually like his under tonight. I'm riding the 87.5 total yard under for Kyren. I also like Ty Chandler under half a reception. He didn't have a single target last week. I think Cam Akers could also potentially eat into his role. And I also like Aaron Jones over. Why no Pookie Bear? Why not Puka Nacua? Look, I love Puka Nacua. I'm excited that he's back. But it sounds in all likelihood like Puka Nacua is going to be on some type of a snap/touch restriction tonight. All right, we got the updated Walter Picks app in here now. Let me show you this cool new matchup screen that we added here. So we go to Sam Darnold. We go to the matchup tab now. Maybe this isn't in the Mac OS version. I'm not sure. Must not be. I believe if you go on your phone, on the latest version of the app, at least on my phone, you get an average row on the matchup tab that's very, very helpful for getting a sense of the best defenses versus worst defenses. All right, just to recap really quick on both sides of the ball. The Rams tonight, Cooper Kupp is back. Sounds like Puka Nacua is going to be active, but I do not expect him to get his full amount of snaps and or touches. I do not think you should start Puka Nacua for that reason. I think D-Hop versus Puka is a tough call. I'd probably hold out hope for D-Hop or find a backup option if D-Hop ends up not playing. Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp, the only must starts on the Rams. Everyone else is basically a must bench. Tutu Atwell, none of these other receivers can possibly be trusted. By the way, we didn't even talk about Jordan Whittington, who I thought was a good start last week. Didn't even play a snap. He played 9 snaps, didn't even get a target. 0 points for Jordan Whittington. A bunch of guys had donuts last week, including him. Jordan Whittington seemed to not be as healthy as they led on last week. But yeah, Kupp, Kyren, only 2 must starts on the Rams. I think you absolutely need to be benching Puka Nacua. On the Viking side of the ball, obviously we're starting Justin Jefferson. We really haven't talked about him at all yet on this live stream. We probably should touch on him quick. He's 4th in yards per game. Again, top 5 in the NFL in receiving yards. Interesting, he only has 1 game over 100 yards this season. I don't think CeeDee Lamb even has a single game, maybe 1 game over 100 yards too. I mean, these guys are going to have some bigger games than they've had so far this season. 33% target share for Justin Jefferson this season. Has been over 25% every single week. Aaron Jones is an absolute must start. I like him more than Kyren Williams. I like him over rushing yards tonight too. And then Sam Darnold, he really shouldn't be in the must bench category. He's more of a maybe worth it category. He ranks as QB 8. And then for the defenses, so the Vikings defense can be started. Also, their kicker can be started. But the Vikings defense can be started. But I prefer the Broncos defense, the Chargers defense, the Chiefs defense, the Lions defense, the Jets defense, the Steelers defense, and the Ravens defense. So if any of those defenses are available, I'd rather play those defenses. What about Jordan Addison? Why is he a maybe start? Yeah, I actually think he's more of a must bench. Talking through it more on this live stream, I kind of think he's a must bench. He projects behind Jalen Naylor, which I don't think I agree with. He had 9.6 last week. He did cash the free player prop for us on the Sunday live. 3 catches, 6 yards. Went 3 for 3 Sunday, by the way, with the props. I got 3 more tonight, which I feel good about. But it was back to his normal snap share. He's out there almost every single snap. He's kind of splitting the wide receiver two role with Jalen Naylor. I do think he's better than Naylor. I would start him over Naylor if I had to make that decision. Only a 15% target share for him, though. Last week, one big deep target. I really just think there's a chance that the Vikings don't need to throw much in this game. And there's always going to be the chance, too, that Jalen Naylor out-targets him. Last week, Jalen Naylor had more targets then Jordan Addison. You can't feel great about that. Puka's a bench because he's probably not going to play his full role. So I think the Vikings should be favored by more than 3. I expect the Vikings to win. The 3 free player props: Kyron, under total yards; Ty Chandler, under half a reception. Ty Chandler barely played last week, and I think there's a chance Cam Akers plays more in that running back 2 role for the Vikings. Because Ty Chandler didn't play well last week. He had a season low, like a second season low, second worst of the season snaps. He only played 11 snaps. They're saying that of his 10 snaps around that he's going to get tonight, one of those is going to get catch. He had 2 carries, 2 yards per carry on those 2 carries, and he didn't get a single target. So he easily could go below this half reception. And they're giving us very good odds on this one, plus 170 on the Ty Chandler under half a reception. And Aaron Jones over 71.5 rushing yards. Every single game we've seen a running back beat this versus the Rams. YouTube Live, guys, that's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you all Sunday morning. Good luck tonight, everyone. Enjoy the Thursday night game. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and have a great night.